practically,
Yes.
Would obeying the court order have run against the timelines established by the Constitution within which the impeachment petition had to be attended to and disposed of?
You see, that provision which is contained in Section 30 of the County Government Act is one that the court would have to advise itself on when it is making that order, or when
and suspend its running?
Yeah.
The period running?
Yeah, the court can do that. We have examples of that. Remember the court proceedings relating to the then candidature of Kathy Kalonzo.
Yes, yes, I was actually thinking about that.
For the Makueni Senate.
Yes.
By the time the court was deciding this, the statutory timeline for
nomination
for that party to nominate had passed. But the court was able to say, in view of what has happened, it gave a new time.
But also in that particular case, Charles, the court was not able to move the date by which elections are to be held. It had to. The court had to adjust this way.
It could
not move the time by when a new election, a new MP had to be in place in Makueni.
No, the court could have changed the election date, but it
elected to change this side of things and not move the dates.
Yes, the court could actually have said, in view of all this, the election date will be moved to another date, but it considered, and the particular party was quite happy to have 24 hours or whatever it was.
So if you are Chief Justice Mutunga, and people are disobeying court orders right, left, and center, what would you do?
That is an interesting question, because you see, and I go back to what I said. At the end of the day, the Constitution contemplates that people will be reasonable and people will discharge their responsibilities in a reasonable manner. Now, you see, at the end of the day, even if the Chief Justice or the courts was to, because ultimately, constitutionally, as long as we respect that Constitution, they have the final word on interpretation and enforcement of the Constitution. But what your question is asking, Mutegi,
what Mutegi is saying is the futility of court orders if they are not enforced. Yeah. And in this case, in fact, it doesn't bring in the Chief Justice. It is the particular judge who makes an order, right? That order is not enforced. What happens? Like in the case of the Senate, let's deal practically with the Senate. Should the applicants have gone back to court and sought contempt of court proceedings against the Speaker of the Senate?
Or the clerk of the
clerk, for that matter, or the whole Senate, in fact.
They could have, David. But the point I am making is that we shouldn't need to get there. Because the next step is like you're on this table and you're here insofar as
you're on the brink.
You're on the brink.
Yes.
Because once you step out and out of the realm of respect for the rule of law,
yes, you're
into the abyss. Because anybody can decide. And you create unnecessary problems.
Yeah,
again,
but Charles,
the National Assembly, David, created this problem, for example, on the issue of the Judicial Service Commissioners. How did we end up? We ended up with a situation where they make the resolution, the President appoints the tribunal, and the court says the tribunal cannot proceed.
Yes.
Why didn't the National Assembly just obey the court order in the first place?
Yes, yes. Yeah, but okay, we are dealing with desperate situations here.
Yes.
They call for dire measures.
Yes.
So what is the next frontier for the disobedience, for those who are disobeying court orders? What is left to the country? Because it's rampant.
The country has to make a choice. The country has to make a choice. The choice is that, because ultimately the people of Kenya are the owners of these constitutions. And ultimately, they are the ones who must protect and safeguard this constitution. Now, that's why I keep saying the biggest threat to our constitutional order is where those institutions, those bodies, those offices that have the highest responsibility to protect that constitution now come to the forefront of destroying the same constitution. Believe me, the next stage is anarchy. Unless everybody takes a mental moment of reflection and say, you know, this constitution works if we all respect our mandates and the mandates of others.
But Mr. Charles Nyachae
yes.
is the chairman of the Constitutional Implementation Commission.
Yes.
Yes.
And he cannot come and sit here and tell us things are going haywire, and he's supposed to implement, supervise the implementation.
Yes.
If you see things going haywire, and you come here and tell us we are in the brink, and you know nothing about it, what are we supposed to do?
You know, Mutegi, what I'm saying is this. My job, or the job of my commission, is to oversee the process of implementation of the Constitution.
And if it doesn't happen,
the Constitution is not implemented by us. It's implemented by the implementers, like in
different
this case,
institutions,
different
legislature,
institutions. Now, I keep going back to the same issue, that there are certain fundamental assumptions that as a country, when we promulgate this Constitution, we make. And that is that those who have responsibilities under the Constitution will discharge them in a reasonable manner, and will do so for the benefit of the people of Kenya. So that if there is any genuine issue that requires interpretation, any issue, as long as we accept that that is why the courts exist, that is why ultimately the Supreme Court exists. And I've given you the example of probably the single most important decision of the Supreme Court of Kenya, for the next 5 years. I've given you the example of the election petition. The fact that the aggrieved party was able, in the presidential petition, to go to court, and the Supreme Court was able to give its decision. Doesn't matter whether you agreed with it or not, but that's the decision of the Supreme Court, and it's binding on everybody. That we were able to do that. If we could do that in respect of a presidential petition, where the stakes are so high,
but could it be, this is just playing the devil's advocate, could it be that there's something also wrong with the judiciary, or a perception that some of the orders issuing from the judiciary are not worth respect? So that, because people are rushing to court sometimes obtaining orders, which when you look at are basically meant to frustrate certain processes, or are completely selfish in nature.
You know, David, for me, as one who has been practicing law for close to 30 years, there can only be one answer to that, and that is that the court process must always be respected to its logical conclusion.
Yes.
Because what you are saying is always a subjective. I mean, many times, many lawyers have been to court and you come out shaking your